Hey guys, welcome to my podcast In the Flow. My name's Naslin, and today I have my buddy Joshua on with me, and we're going to share some words, just some stuff within us that we've always really wanted to speak about. And yeah, so I think we could start by sharing the story of how we met.
That was very funny.
So I recently moved downtown, have a cool little loft on top of a yoga studio, and picked up the habit of smoking darts again a little bit, but that's okay. It's just something to kind of get me through a little chunk and period of my life. So I was sitting out in my car having a smoke, and I saw Joshua walking around. And so I unrolled my window and I was like, hey, you need a smoke? And what'd you say?
I said, do you need some pills?
And that's how we met. Yeah. Swapping habits. So whatever, we ended up having a smoke together and not pills though. Just a dart. And we got talking and kind of resonated on a few things, and that's kind of what we want to share today. We're both children of God, and we've both had pretty crazy lives, and through it all, God's always kind of provided and led us to the right people at the right times and guided us, and it's kind of what we want to speak about. So a kind of cool story too is, when we were talking on that first day, I had mentioned, he said he was trying to travel back to Red Pheasant, and I had said, my boys, so I have these two boys that came with my ex-husband, so they're not biologically mine, but I'm their mom. And I said, oh, that's crazy. My two boys, their mom, she was from Red Pheasant. And Josh goes, okay, whatever. And I said her name, which I won't share on here. And he goes, no way. He said, I dated her sister. And I was like, oh, like, what a small world. And then today we were just talking, and he said he went to school with them. And that kind of too is like a little testament too of how, how God works. Like, it's a big world, but it's a small world. And you meet these people, and then you just get these little confirmations that these are people you're meant to be around. And so it was pretty cool. So then we were, hanging out, and, Joshua kind of started to share some of his beliefs, and we just started having some talks and recognized that we both really share a lot of the same stories, a lot of the same beliefs. And that's kind of what we just wanted to pop on and share. So kind of let you take over for a bit, Joshua.
Yeah, so I've been wanting to do this for a while now, come and do this podcast and just talk about whatever flows to us, through us. And I'm on my way to Red Pheasant eventually today. Gotta go help my uncle. He's kind of sickly, so I'm gonna go and work for him as he's down a couple cowboys, and with me back, be a well-needed help. And I've been out of work since hunting season, so this will be a little bit change of pace since it's very difficult. I've been staying on and off in Onion Lake, and things just worked out the way they were been working out, and I'm here, and hopefully that today will be a change for the better.
Well, it's kind of cool too, because I'm starting my kind of 40-day flow. Today I've created a really cool program that I've implemented in my life, and I'm kind of utilizing it today to just really bring about my light body, lay down the last few habits that I have, and really come into my calling and my walk for God. And so it's neat how today's the day we kind of stumbled back into each other's lives and had our last coffee and cigarette together and start a good fresh day. And I think it's just going to be it's time for that shift. And sort of one of the things that I think is cool about us sitting here together is, I won't get too much into it. I'll share this another time on my own, but I've carried a lot of shame in my life being a white woman, and a podcast that I will share, maybe I'll do this later after Joshua takes off, is titled Pretty White Privilege. And growing up, I experienced a lot. My dad and my uncles, again, it's not shaming the white man. White men have fear. I have that theory that, white man, they were really intimidated by the connection that natives had with creator, with the earth, with the land. Nobody's evil. There's no good, bad, right, or wrong, but there's fear. And out of that fear, white man kind of came, and like I said, they were intimidated by that connection. And instead of learning, like, I have the belief system that Jesus actually sent the natives to earth to reteach mankind how to reconnect to the earth and live in that harmony. So instead of white man learning from the natives and embracing that and working, with them, they kind of, they place liquor, drugs, in their hands, and severed that connection to source. And now what they're doing is just shaming the natives for having these addictions. But I mean, they were the ones who placed it in their hands out of their own fear of that powerful connection. So growing up, I witnessed a lot. My dad and my uncles, sure, I'll just say it, they were pretty horrible to the natives, and I watched them do some pretty horrible things, especially to native girls. Something I kind of been shying away from speaking about, but whatever, they would really do some horrible things to these native girls that had no way out. And so they would choose, they would sell their bodies. And I watched some horrible things happen. And I just remember as a little girl knowing that was wrong. And even though I grew up with a big heart and I can see people for who they are, I carried that shame. And as a little girl, I internalized that as me. And I've lived with this shame of being a white woman. And it's a crazy thing, and it's not right. And it's pretty fucked up, and I just keep seeing this playing out, and it's playing out now with even spiritual women. It's all this fear and people that are afraid of that connection that we have with spirit and with the earth. And so they, that's where you get called mentally ill, bipolar, schizophrenia, all these things. These are these children of God that have come to show the way. And because people are afraid of that, they label them. And that's, where you get people with mental illness, all the homeless, is because we're living in this world that's not, we're supposed to be showing the way. And instead, people in fear are really destroying that. And it's something I really want to talk about. And I think it's a big connection that I have even with Joshua, and being able to just see these people as children of God, and we're just labeled some pretty shitty shit. And that's a big thing that I really wanted to share, is just that shame I've carried, even with my brother. It goes beyond me being white. It goes beyond that. It's being a woman. My little brother had the same demons that he battled, but because he was a boy, because he was supposed to be a tough man, this tough white man, he ended up taking his life. And here I am as a woman. I was privileged. I had people help me. I had people support me. I got away with so much. I struggled with the same things as him, but because I was a white woman, I got away with it. And yes, I honor that. I honor the fact that I was able to heal and be someone now who can speak and share on it. But I would be lying if I said I didn't carry a lot of shame around that. And it's just a really real thing that I've wanted to share. So yeah, that's one piece of it. But I think too, like me and Joshua, we were talking the first couple days there when we met and we were hanging out, how when you come from that, direct lineage of God, you come with this big heart, and both of us have these big hearts that just want to give. We would give the shirt off our backs. And I think both of us have spent our lives doing that. And this year we're coming into a time though, where God's really calling his children to step up, step into their power. And the only way we can do that is if we start pouring back into ourselves. And it's a hard thing. And that's another thing that we're played on in this journey of, being these, light workers, these people that came to show the way. We have these big hearts, but then it's also really played upon that we have to give of ourselves. And I think something that we've discussed is we have to pour into ourselves more than ever this year. And there's a stigma around that. So you're selfish. You're being full of yourself. Well, yeah, we're supposed to be full of ourselves, and then we can be full of God. And then we can pour from that cup of God and let that overfill. But I'll let Joshua speak a little bit on that, because that was something that really resonated with him as well, of giving and giving and giving. And this is the year that we need to receive now.
Yeah, as just like you were saying, there's times when we come together as people, and it doesn't matter your race or the male or female. There's a lot of things that we can learn and teach one another, and that's one thing I'm always curious about is, what more can I learn today? How can I be better than yesterday? And like I don't believe in being better than anyone. I just want to be better than yesterday than I was, and I'm trying to be able to teach my kids that, and also teach everybody that that doesn't take too much out of a person's energy just to say hi, say check in on people, because with the amount of suicides that's been all over the world, and people falling into drugs, I'm always making sure all my friends we're always checking in, and we're always making sure that everybody's okay. And that's one thing I don't like to see is people hurting people I know that are hurt, and I always want to reach out to people in any form or any shape, just being able to say hi or say how are you doing, and like I met a lot of people, and I just don't remember. I'm not good with names, but I do remember faces. So that's one thing I'll definitely carry with me, and I hope to see my girls and my kid, my son, to be able to have that part of me, that big part of me, because I know eventually, someday soon, we're not always going to be here. So while I'm trying to make my time worth it while I'm around, and just be able to just share some good love and positivity, and that's basically why I think I'm still alive to this day, is be able to share that and overcome small negative things. And it is a hard uphill battle these days, but we always we can overcome things, whether we have help or not, or be the help.
Well, I think that was one of our cool big connections too, is here we are in these two different situations of life, and it's that little connection that we both needed that day. Just that energy, you can feel the energy, okay, sure, I'm this white woman living up in this space, and he's this native man down living on the street, and here both of us, though, we're needing that same thing, just that friend, just that somebody, and you can feel that in people, you can feel their heart, you can feel their energy. Instantly I knew, like, this is a brother. Instantly we could tell, okay, we're both these children of God, and that's all we needed that day. We just needed a little laugh off the get-go there, and just to, hey, how are you doing, man? Are you okay? And he was able to say that back to me, like, how are you? Are you good? And I love you, man. Like, instantly you can just, that it's that love of that brotherhood, that kinship. And it was something as simple as just having a fucking dart together, and just holding that space for each other and reminding each other that we're not alone. And I think that's the biggest message that both me and Joshua really want to spread in the world, is we're not alone. And sometimes it's just a smile to a stranger, or a quick conversation that can actually change someone's day and their whole life. And we're all walking around this world feeling alone these days, and it's simple things. It could be a big thing like a podcast, it could be a big thing like a book you write, it could be a business you create, but also your purpose, your mission, your path could just be as simple as letting God kind of usher you around in the earth, and just saying, hey, how's it going, and letting that be kind of your story, and your mission. And for both of us, that was something really big. And even relationship wise, a lot of us are kind of defaulting to these kind of band-aid relationships because being alone can be hard. But that's where I think it's important for a lot of us to kind of start just showing up in life and showing up for each other, and just reminding each other that love can exist outside of a intimate relationship. It can be just a friendship. It can be a one-time thing where you just stop and say hey to someone, and you just sit there and have a conversation with somebody, and you look beyond the label, and you see beyond the flesh, and you just see that we all are just God's children out here trying to just walk each other home. So it can be it's a pretty cool thing, and it doesn't have to be this big profound act, and I mean, if anything we could learn from Jesus is, I mean, that was his whole walk, is just being, just existing in that energy of love, that energy of peace, and sitting down, and just being a friend. And so that's a pretty cool thing. And some of them stick around.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah.
We're gonna, it's just cool. It's just a cool thing, the way life works. And yeah. So yeah, kind of going back to that, it's for a lot of us that are these givers, and we've been really taught, it's within us to give, but we've also been programmed to really also give of ourselves, and keep ourselves depleted, keep ourselves down. So that's something that, this year, it's kind of a mind trickery too, because, well, we are programmed. We have these big hearts. I will give to you before I give to me. But this is kind of the shift this year for a lot of us, where God's kind of asking us to power up here, fill up. We got to spend this year really like self-love, self-care, power up, because a lot of us are holding that light of God, for sure, Joshua, myself included. We've come here to, we have that original blueprint of heaven within us, and we've come here to really ripple that out from within. And the way to do that is to fill ourselves up. And like I said, we've been so taught that that's being selfish, and that doesn't go with our true nature. Our true nature is to just give, give, give. But we have to see ourself this year. We have to give to ourself this year, and then God can pour through us. So, and I just wanted to share too, it's like the meek shall inherit. When you read the Bible, it's the meek shall inherit. And here's a brother and sister right here that are pretty fucking meek. But that's where I'll say too, it goes back to the homeless, the ones that are deemed with a mental illness. These are God's children that this world has just chewed up and spit out and labeled, and just our spirits have been crushed, and they did that intentionally to keep us low, to keep our belief in ourselves low. Because when we fill ourselves with ourselves and we allow God to fill us, we're unstoppable. And that's where heaven does come back to earth, is through us. And that's where this year, you're going to see a big shift. And I've had, for me too, kind of going back to that white woman thing that I speak about, I've always sought, a white man, and I've really identified myself with, man and money, and my ability to be who I needed to be able to receive that protection from a man and receive that financial, income from a man. And this year I really stepped out of that, and it's who do I want to be? Who is Naslyn, beyond that? And, so I'm out in the world, I don't have that anymore, and kind of lost my train of thought there a little bit, but that's okay. It'll flow back in. Yeah. And again, like I'll say, it's not, nobody's, maybe, the more I speak about this kind of stuff, it might sound like I'm kind of beating down on the white man a little bit, but I'm not. They're afraid, they're in fear as well. And they feel that, like, out of a good spiritual woman, these Native girls that are going missing, they're taking, because they want that connection. They want to feel that source connection. And spiritual women, natives, these Native women, they house that. They house God so potent and pure within them. And the thing is if man could just realize that they don't have to take, they can receive, and that's a big thing too. And, okay, I know where I was going with that. So I've always had a heart for the homeless, and the mentally ill, because I get it. You're not bipolar. You're actually just a child of God that's been fucked around by the world. And now you're existing in these two frequencies. But that's for another talk. But the men I've always been with they've always judged me on that, oh, you just love the fucking homeless. You just love these natives. Yeah, I do, because these are the pure children of God. And I've always seen that. And as a little girl, I've always seen that and known that. And that's been something I've really battled against my whole life. And but it's cool. And I'm proud of myself for who I am. I'm proud of myself for always recognizing and seeing the soul in people. And not everyone has to understand that. And if I allowed these men in my life to reprogram my mind, I wouldn't be sitting here next to Joshua. I wouldn't have these amazing connections to these brothers and sisters of God. And I just want to say too, like, about Joshua, like, I got a couple other friends too, a couple brothers and sisters of the streets there, and it's just such a cool thing to witness how no matter what, they can have no money, nothing. The world can just be totally beating them down, and still at the end of the day, they're going to do what's right. They're going to go shovel. They're going to, tend to the earth, tend to the people, and that's why too, I'll say, living out here on my own now downtown, I've never felt more protected. I spent 11 years living with, like I said, a white man who made good money, and I didn't feel safe. And now here I am out on my own, and I'm connecting, with true people, and I've never felt more protected. Every morning in the winter, I'd wake up and I had a woman. She was, just a sister on the street there, and every morning she'd be shoveling in front of my space and teaching me the ways, like these ceremonial ways, like. And I just think I just have so much respect. Like, again, maybe I'm going to sound a little whatever, but you go take away some of these white men's money, and they're sure not going to be out there tending to the earth and showing up and following that path of God. And it's just pretty cool. And I just have a lot of respect for that. And I just see that in Joshua, that at the end of the day, it's always about just being a good person and helping out people in need, even when sometimes you are the person in need.
So yeah, most cool. Definitely.
Yeah. So cool. Let's see what else. Anything else we want to talk about today? He'll be back. He'll be back.
Oh, definitely.
That's what we always say. We got to do a podcast episode, but it's like, he'll be back. God will put us in each other's lives again.
And in time, I'm pretty sure that I'll be able to think of other things to add to this and be of value.
Yeah, 100%. Absolutely. I feel like maybe, is there anything you want to kind of share about your connection, to God or Jesus, or kind of like your sort of opinion or whatever on that? Or,
well, I do know that it is true that it works in mysterious ways, and like about 13 years ago, I fell 4 stories, and I was told that I may have never walk again. So they pushed me, and eventually I cried trying to walk, but that was necessary, and I just thought, I'm not gonna be. I'm gonna push myself, and still to this day, I push myself every day. And even though my 3 vertebrae is the ones that give me the most pain, and unfortunately at the time I kind of got addicted to painkillers. And since my brain injury, I told my doctor. Well, I had this brain injury about 5 years ago, and I told my doctor that I got addicted to painkillers, and so he gave me the alternative, which I'm prescribed gabapentin, and I'm thankful for those because they're not hard to come off of either, and they give me energy, and I can move around. My body moves around, and it's just like, to me, that's just very motivating to be able to still be around to this day. Even after that brain injury, they told my parents there that I could be a vegetable or I won't know who I am. It was 50-50, so I'm very grateful for that I retained all my information and still am the person today. And despite all my pains I go through every day, I'm just always glad I can push myself and try to become better. But yeah, God really put me on this earth for a reason, and I'm just now discovering, maybe I should help others and educate them and be there for others, and not just only my family but also my friends and even random strangers. I like it. It makes me feel good to be able to know that I can help people when I can, where I can, and it's very, very uplifting for me. And I know many people are kind of skeptical when it comes to helping people, but me, I'll always do my best, because I know what it's like to have not and to be alone, and I know what that's like. So I'm always very giving when I can be, and helping others when I can, and that's why I'm still here, I believe. So,
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
but other than that, yeah, that's
I know what I want to ask you to share. So, and it kind of, we'll kind of cap it off with this, and it kind of circles back around to our original way we met, where I was smoking my cigarettes. Um, Joshua actually offered me a little piece of kind of a ceremonial release. I want you to share that. And I did it actually. I'm actually using it and I'm working with it right now. But you had shared with me about, a proper way to kind of release that, and wrapping the tobacco and offering it back.
yeah. Like whenever you have prayers, and I'm not sure what specific tree you can use, but I'm pretty sure as long as it's a living tree, you just go and say a prayer or two. Well, you just pray, right? Because all in all, we pray to the same God, right? And we just have different names for him, and yeah, we break a piece of the tobacco off, and then we put it on the ground beside a tree, and that's how we honor Mother Earth. And I'm still learning a lot of my people's ways. Like my dad has a lot of knowledge of First Nation medicines and traditional healing medicines, and I'm just still learning my ways. And even my mom's family too. They're kind of like read the Bible a lot, and that's something too. I would love to learn all types of different religions and how they pray and honor God, and I just very interested and open minded, and as long as you have that willingness to learn, you can pretty much learn anything you want.
Yeah, absolutely. So I kind of took his theory and I kind of did my own little thing with it. And so every time I kind of was wanting to have that cigarette, I would break it open and put all the tobacco in some soil. And so I did that for a while. And then I was out at Bright Sand Lake, which is absolutely beautiful. It's like a little slice of BC right in our backyard here. And I found this plant. This plant called to me. So I uprooted it and planted it. So all my tobacco with my prayers, like I would put the tobacco in the soil and pray for that help of releasing that habit and returning the tobacco to its natural state. It is a beautiful ceremonial thing, but we've just taken it out of that ceremony, and we're just smoking it with these chemicals, and so it's we're just stripping everything, all these beautiful natural ceremonial things, the ways of the earth, and we're just tainting it. But we're coming back into that. So then I planted this plant in there, and so that's kind of my little version of that ceremony, and that practice. And so now every day when I feel like I need that addiction, or I need that hit of some superficial dopamine, instead of meditating, praying, doing my yoga, doing these things that naturally fill me, then I kind of sit, and this is my little prayer plant now. So yeah, so that was kind of a cool little gift that Joshua was able to offer me. And yeah, well, cool. Well, thanks guys for listening, and sure you'll see more of us. And check out Joshua's TikTok. What is it?
Adventure guy.
Adventure guy, where he's raw and just shares his adventures. How he kind of talks about not maybe his ability to walk was almost stripped from him, but here he is out there walking the earth, walking God's land. And that's a thing too, where I believe, with a lot of the homeless, with a lot of people being stripped of these worldly things, but they're out there walking. And when you hold that energy and frequency of God like Joshua does, your walk, every step you take on this earth is reigniting that energy. And he's out there walking, man. He's walking the walk, and it's just a cool, powerful thing. And yeah, I'm just honored to have him as a friend. I'm honored to have him sit here and share some cool words with me. And yeah, we'll be back, I'm sure.
Yes.
All right, take care, guys.